Guys, so our second lecture for today is on Dear ImGui. We're going to do another short 5-minute lecture that might turn into another half-hour one, but all the important information will be contained within the first 5 minutes. So Dear ImGui is kind of my go-to easy way, just like how we just did TCP streams, easy way to do networking. Dear ImGui is the easy way to do interfaces, user interfaces in C++. So this is what it looks like when you have a Dear ImGui program. The font is terrible. I remember last year Megan was saying, I like the font, but yeah, it's ugly by default. So the demo code that comes with it kind of has everything you need to know. It's called self-documenting code. Not quite accurate. There are some things where they just are like, here's a FAQ entry to show you how to do it. But by and large, most of the things that you want to do in Dear ImGui are in fact self-documenting. And so you can see here we've got these windows that can be scrolled around, dragged around, things like that, window options. Turn off the title bar, look at that. What about no move? Can't drag it anymore. What about no close? The X goes away, right? When I close that, boom, the demo window unchecks. If I recheck it, it reappears. Look at that. Amazing. So there's all sorts of cool things inside of here. Images, look, here's images. Text, colorful text, pink, yellow, word wrapping, it's amazing. Trees, basic trees, children, blah, 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 blah. Buttons that do things. You can click on a button, look, a counter goes up every time. You can change the background color with a color picker. Whee! So all this demo code, this is like what it ships with. Basically teaches you everything you need to know for your project. All right. And let me show you what to do step by step. So first step you're going to do is you are going to say hi to Todd Howard. Everybody, Todd Howard, everyone say hi, please. Todd Howard, he's a good guy. Do GitHub Dear ImGui. Good, thank you. Hi, Todd. Very good, very good, very good. All right. And so you're gonna go to GithGub. Amazing, GithGub. You're gonna go to GitHub for ImGui, Dear ImGui. It's from Okornut. Hello, Todd Howard. Good. It's always important to say hi to Todd Howard. All right. Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna take the code. You're gonna download it. You got GitHub desktop that'll automate it, but you can just download a zip file like that, and we'll just save it to the desktop. Why not? And then it's going to download here, and then we're going to go and right click, and we are going to unzip it like that, and I'll delete the zip file. I can always re-download it if I want to. And here we have the zip file that's the released version of Dear ImGui. Now, there's two really important things I want to mention here. First of all is the header file. So the header file imgui.h. Basically, anytime you do a project that is going to be using the Dear ImGui library, you're going to hashtag include imgui.h. Second most important thing is this file here, imguidemo.cpp. This file here contains basically one of every single thing in the library. If you want to make a slider, and sometimes more, right? Like there's more buttons and labels and text and things like that. But if you want to learn how to make a slider, if you want to learn how to make a checkbox, if you want to learn how to make a button, there's examples for all of it inside of imguidemo.cpp. What we're going to do is we're going to go into the examples directory here, and you'll see at the bottom here, there's a file called imguiexamples.solution. A solution file is part of a Microsoft product called Microsoft Visual Studio. Now, how many people here, let's see a show of hands on chat, how many people here have heard of Visual Studio Code? Visual Studio Code, text editor kind of thing, fancy, open with code, that thing there. Looks like, where'd it go? Here it is. Here's our fancy VS Code text editor. Yeah, we're not using that. Okay, so Visual Studio Code is not Visual Studio. Microsoft, really, confused a lot of people with that. Because there's like Visual Studio Community, Visual Studio Professional, Visual Studio Code. One of these is not like the other. Visual Studio Code is not Visual Studio. Completely different product. Visual Studio Code is a text editor that it's a plug-in accessible text editor that, if you kind of configure it right, you can kind of do everything you want in it. It is not Visual Studio. Visual Studio is a IDE. Okay, an IDE is, let me close out of my old one, I guess. Did I break it? it's over here on the wrong window. Okay. So when I open it up, it's going to ask me to retarget. Sure, why not? Okay. It's on the wrong window, so it's updating. There we go. All right. So Visual Studio is what's called an IDE. And the difference between an IDE and a text editor is that an IDE sort of incorporates everything you need to know. Not everything you need to know, everything you want to do, let's say, into one program. All right. And so it's got a compiler built into it. It's got a debugger built into it. You can change release targets. There's a configuration manager where you can set what the default build is. Right now, the default build is DirectX 9. If I come in here and go to properties, I can change the default to DirectX 12. Not like it's going to make much of a difference, but you see the little thing highlight. And then you can build it. You can hit build all, and that will try building every single one of these projects here. So a solution contains multiple projects, and a project is probably what you guys would normally think of as like your homework assignment, right? You got a folder and you got your make file inside of it, and all that kind of stuff. So if I try building everything, you'll see down here it's going to try building every single one of these projects. Some of them are going to fail because I don't have Vulkan installed. I think I have SDL installed, but I don't know if it knows where I put SDL. I think I might have an environment variable that sets it. Done building SDL. Yeah, so some of these worked, some of them didn't work. And that's fine. You don't need all of them to work. You only need one of them to work. Now, if you're making a game, what all these things mean is actually quite important to you. For you guys, it's not going to matter, right? For this class. So, Dear ImGui sits on top of a rendering layer, and there's kind of three different rendering layers it supports. One is called SDL. That's what Counter-Strike was done in. Valve uses SDL. It's called the Simple Direct Media Layer. No. Soft. What's the actual acronym stand for? Simple Direct Media. Yeah, Simple Direct Media Layer. Okay. And so that's like a cross-platform way of drawing graphics to the screen. Then there's something called OpenGL, and there's DirectX, and Vulkan is kind of like a lightweight. It's also made by the OpenGL people. It's not exactly OpenGL, but it's more lightweight than it. Anyhow, the point is, if you're making an actual 3D game, this would actually matter. Which version of DirectX do we support? Which version of OpenGL do we support? Do we want shaders? That kind of stuff. For you guys, nah, it's not going to matter. So just pick one that works. For me, DirectX 12 works fine. And so when you want to run it, you just click the little green arrow there, boom, and it launches the program. Okay. Now, you got your frame rate, you got buttons that do things. This must be very complicated, right? It's actually a very small program. So one of the cool things about Dear ImGui is just how simple it is to actually make a user interface. Okay. So I'm going to open up main.cpp, and we can go through this. Let's see, maybe I can make Can you guys read this? Is this readable to you? Yeah. Okay. All right, so the good thing is main.cpp, which is the starting point of your program. Most of it's boilerplate. You can just ignore it. And so if I start here, you just kind of scroll down and be like, I don't care about it. I don't care about any of you. Changing the font's actually pretty important because the default font's kind of garbage. And then we come down here, and here is actually where the... this is where the actual UE is built. Okay. So the way that Dear ImGui works, it's got kind of this cool design. All right. So there's this variable here called show demo window. It defaults to true. If I set that to false, that demo window on the right-hand side wouldn't appear by default. Now, what happens is you just write code that looks like this. And so you say, if show demo window is true, then ImGui show demo window. So there's actually a built-in function to show the demo window. So that whole thing is just one line of code, which is nice. But at the same time, like when you're like, how did they do that in the demo window? You don't know because it's just part of the right side there. If I launch this again, the right side, this is the show demo window. And so the source code for that is actually in a different file. I'll show you that in a second. This window here, that window is in main.cpp. And all of this code here, click on that, look, a thing appears. Click on that, a thing appears. Look, cool. You can drag this scroll bar up and down. You know, you can double click and change the background color. Ooh, that's a disgusting background color. Yeah, click on that, button goes up. Okay. So that code is here. All right. So the demo window is just one function. If you want to see the source code for it, which I recommend because it's got everything in Dear ImGui. This function here, show demo window, is basically the documentation for Dear ImGui. If there's anything that you need to do, like load an image that's not part of show demo window, they'll usually have like a FAQ entry on it, and they'll kind of like walk you through how to like display an image or something. But yeah, so let's look at the actual code that's here. Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's like from here to like here. That's the entire program, basically. Everything else is boilerplate that makes it work. You can just kind of ignore everything else. So I would just take the folder and just start editing. I'd maybe comment it out, you know, in case you break something. Check it in on GitHub, you know, in case you break something. Okay, so static, or remember we talked about static last time. A static variable is a global that is only accessible within the current scope. So even though this is in a loop that is running over and over again, it does not reset counter every time. That is a global. It's out in global space. It just can't be seen. It's scoped to the local scope. So every time we increment it, like with that thing there, that permanently increases the value by 1. Okay. So every time you want one of those floating window thingies, use ImGui begin. And every ImGui begin must be sandwiched with an ImGui end at the end of it. So that begins drawing a window, and whatever you put inside of there is going to be drawn inside of that window until you get a ImGui end. Okay, so that's the buns of the sandwich. Then what can you put inside of a window? All right, glad you asked. Text, that seems useful. In fact, this is some useful text. Cool. Checkbox, you can check something, you can uncheck something. Now, here's where it gets really interesting for Dear ImGui. There is a Boolean that's out of our scope, and we pass that Boolean by reference to checkbox. And so if that Boolean is true, the check is checked in the GUI, but also the checkbox can change it. So when we click on the checkbox, it'll set show demo window to false. And if we click it again, it'll set show demo window to true. And so this loop runs over and over again in an infinite loop. So every time it runs, it says if show demo window, draw the demo window. And so if that checkbox gets unchecked, that doesn't draw. Simple as that. That's as easy as doing a GUI gets. There's no callbacks, there's no events. It just starts at the top and it just goes to the bottom every frame. Not the highest performance thing, but it's good enough. We got, you know, my CPU runs at 5 or 6 gigahertz, something like that. Like it can redraw every time. It's fine. We're not going to break the bank on it. This is the slider. So if you remember here, slider over here. This is the slider. And what's happening here when you drag this, it's actually changing the value of f. So f is passed in by reference. And so as I drag that around, if I were to like see out the value of f or something, that slider is actually changing the value of that variable. And so those of you that are the Jujutsu Kaisen Curse Lords, your job is to build an interface to your game. And so you can do something like have places where you can type in your name, buttons to move around in the world, this kind of stuff. So how buttons work is pretty interesting. So here we've got ImGui : button inside of an if statement. That seems weird, but it's not, because the button function, if you want to call it that, which draws the button on the screen, what does it say? It says button. Returns true if the user has clicked it. It returns false if the user has not clicked it. Again, there's no events, there's no callbacks. It's as simple as that. So whatever code you want to have run when the button is pushed, you can just do something like that, and all the code between there and there is automatically run every time the user clicks the button. Simple as that. Easy. Yep. Same line. We'll do formatting. There's different ways of laying out things on the screen. I think by default it just goes top to bottom in a column. And then this is printf style printing. If you don't like that, then I can show you how to not use the printf style stuff. You use scout style stuff instead. So it's going to do a couple texts, and the texts are just these things here. Where you at? Where you at? There. Just like that. So it just displays text, you know. So we got buttons, we got color pickers, we got sliders, and then there's tons more stuff over here. So if you want progress bars, tabbed browsing, list boxes you can select, images, bullet points, check boxes, text input, where do we get multi-line text input. You just sit here and type things in, and all that's available to the program. And so all of that stuff on the right-hand side there, that is inside of Show Demo window. So if you right-click on it and go to definition right here, then double-click and close this now. This is the source code for that huge window on the right-hand side. And there's a lot of stuff there. And so if there's like anything in particular that interests you, you run it and then you like hunt for it. Like if you're looking for like no move, like how do I turn off the ability to drag this, right? Instead of just scrolling through this massive, monstrosity of a function, instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to Control F and search for a new move. And you see there's a checkbox that says no move on it, and it changes the value of the no underscore move variable. Control Shift F for that. And you can see there's no move is false by default. And if we go to the next one, here, window flags, it turns on a bit field. Oh, look, bit fields. Who knew those were in? Oh, they're so important. Oh, what? Oh. Yeah, bit fields. There we go. So, or equals, it sets a bit. So that the window flag now has gained a bit field bit called no move, and it stops it from being dragged. And there's one of those for each one of these. So who knew? Who knew that was useful? All right. And so that's basically what I'd recommend is you just hunt around inside of this giant demo function and search for the text no move or picture or texture or whatever it is you're looking for, and it'll have documentation and things like that. Like this is basically the documentation for Dear ImGui. Okay, so let's do a little something here, and then I'll give you the rest of the class to work on it with your groups. So I don't want the show demo window anymore. I'm just gonna hide that. We got an anonymous scope here. That's cool. Do I need you? Nah, I don't need you anymore. I'm just gonna instead of doing this, I'm actually just going to comment out all of that code all the way down to here. And I'm just going to make my own window. All right, so I'll start with, I don't know, one of these or something like that. And hit paste. Okay, so remember, every window you create is sandwiched between a begin and an end. All right, so I'm going to call this one control window. And it should never close, so I'm just going to do that. And I'll have some text here. Press the buttons to move. Button close me. And call this one plus X. And for this one, we'll just say X plus plus. And so yeah, we just make these statics, whatever. Static and X equals 0, Y equals 0. So these are the player positions for X and Y. And we're just going to make 4 buttons. One, you click on it, it moves to the right. One, it moves to the left, so on and so forth. Okay. So we're going to have a plus X button, a minus X button, a plus Y button, minus Y button. And the layout on this should look pretty bad because everything's just going to be lined up top to bottom. So let's display the person's location. So let's make a string called, I don't know, print string. And so we're going to say the player's location is at x colon plus. Doesn't like you. Doesn't like you. Is string not included? Okay, fancy. All right. All right. All right. We need to include string, I guess. Include string, not capital S. Include string, and let's just use namespace standard because we are professionals that don't like STDs. All right, let's come back down here. There we go. String is known now. So the player's location is at x plus 2 string s. Move my face out of the way. So y. Find and replace. Open up there. Okay. Plus q string y. Just like that. And then if you want to display a text in Dear ImGui, it actually does not work with the string class. It's kind of a C style thing they got instead. So we just try printing the print string here. We're going to get an error message. It takes a const char star. We're passing a string. They're not compatible, but they are compatible because there is a function called cster. Just like that. Boom. Okay. Boom. 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 Thank you. Yeah. And there we go. And so that converts a C++ style string to be a C style string. I like working with C++ style strings better than C style strings. And so if a lot of libraries though expect C style strings, and so that's how I do it. I just make my C++ string and then I call convert to C string, and then it gives you a const char star. It essentially returns a pointer to its private member variable, and as long as it doesn't mess with it, it shouldn't. It should be a const char star, so it should be fine. Then everything's fine. Everyone's happy. All right, so let's try this code out. Let's go ahead and save everything and hit run. And did it failed? S undeclared it. Not S. How about X? How about X? All right. How about now? Local variable initialize not reference. I don't care. I don't care about either of you. All right. So here we go. Here is our little control window. Again, the layout by default is just top to bottom. But as I click on things, you can see I move to the right, move to the left, move up, move down. You see that? So by using clickingses, I now have a C++ program that in real time can read user input and update the X and Y location of the player. If I was going to do this real, I'd probably lay it out like a diamond shape and do some other stuff, but that'll kind of get you going. Okay. So for those of you that are the Jujutsu Kaisen Curse Lords, that's a good starting point. Yep. So anything else, like however you want to design your GUI, just launch the demo window, go through that, find things that you want, whatever you want. Like if you want a scrollable map, if you want, I don't know, like text, like just text screen. There's text fields and things like that you can, if you want to have it, still have a text-based interface, you can have a text screen and just change the text that's displayed and things like that. And then you've got an actual like Windows application that, you can show your friends and put on a USB drive and take it to them. Because when we compile it this way, it's actually building a Windows executable. And then you can take this and, here, Mom, play my game. Without them needing to log in on the server, which, scares people, right? This looks terrifying to people. I don't know why, but it just looks like you're stuck in the matrix. So, Dear ImGui, easy to get into, easy to learn. Documentation kind of non-existent, but at the same time, kind of self-documenting. There's only a couple things that are kind of annoying about it, like loading an image and displaying an image. But they have a web page on how to do that, and I've linked that in Canvas. So capability to display text as characters for a game should be very similar between ncurses and Dear ImGui. You don't have to do both. So if you just want to use it in curses, just use in curses. In curses is probably going to be rendering text better because it's designed for that than Dear ImGui. But with Dear ImGui, you get buttons and scroll bars and like, yeah, the background color could flash. Oh, should I flashbang you guys? You guys want me to flashbang you? I don't have the flashbang anymore. Let's see if I can flashbang you real fast as the last thing for today. Where was I here? Examples. Go back into Visual Studio. It's just a dummy grenade. All right. Let's see how long it'll take. Somebody start a timer. Let's see how long it'll take me to flashbang people. Let's see. Where's the clear color? There's the clear color. Okay, cool. So we'll search for the clear color, and the clear color is there. Copy, paste, save the old one, and clear color with alpha. So we're gonna do rand module schema 5. Actually, I don't know if this is linear color. It's linear color, isn't it? Don't actually know if this will work. Is it RGB? It's RGBA. You guys are counting the time. 1 maybe? All right, let's try that. Oh man, I'm gonna get so many complaints. Okay, so there. That actually hurt my eyes. Okay. All right. So that had 0 chill on it. Maybe yeah, you saw that. You saw how fast that frame rate was. Like that was crazy. Maybe we could do something a little nicer than that. Just for fun here, just for funsies. Why is my ear ringing? My ear's ringing like I got flashbang too. It's weird. How did looking at that give me tinnitus? That's wild. Yeah. Let's see. Let's get the time. Maybe let's get time. C time. So what line are we on here? What line are we on? Let's do some C time up in here. Let's get the time. Instead of doing random, because that was obnoxious. That was obnoxious in the extreme. Let's do time. Let's feed that through absolute value. The sine of time. Maybe. Yeah. Try that. So time. It doesn't like time. You don't like time? Who doesn't like time? Time. Oh, time 0. Right. Copy. So that's the red. Oh, it's going to be monochrome. And I'm fine with monochrome. All right, we'll start with that. So absolute value. You don't know absolute value? Seriously? Okay. Never heard of absolute value. Never met this man in my life. All right. That's why I miss Vim. Include CNAV. Chill now. Cool. Let's run this. Abs no overload function takes 2 arguments. Did I? Yep, I left off a close parentheses there. That's okay. Fair enough. That was my bad. Absolute value sine times 0. Okay. Let's try this. Okay, what happened here? What happened? Oh, there we go. All right, let's try that now. Boom. There we go. So it's gonna be monochrome, but once per second it is updating the background. So it's a much more slow motion flashbang this time. Or we could use clock, I guess, and time only updates once per second. This is probably going to be obnoxious. Yeah. All right. If you have photosensitive epilepsy, look away. Yeah. That's a frame rate right there. So divide, whatever. That's good enough. So it's enough trolling the students for today. You need all the pieces integrated together and available for download on GitHub. How does this work if we're running on the server? All the source code, everything should be on GitHub. And that includes your Dear ImGui stuff. Everything needs to be in the repo. So I should be able to go on to your GitHub, because I'm a contributor on all of them, clone your project down to my machine using GitHub Desktop, which I've not shown to you guys. Let me show that to you real fast. And then I should be able to build it. And my ears are still ringing from that. It's wild. Okay. And so here's GitHub Desktop. And I've got different repos. I'm part of Open Duelist, Stable Diffusion for doing image generation, Raylib, Unreal Engine. Here's Dear ImGui. And so I can pull and push and do all those commands that you normally do on the command line. You can do them from the desktop client here. So update, stash changes, and continue, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So all those commands you've had to learn like command line parameters for, it can do them using a GUI. I'm not really a huge fan of it. I just like using command line stuff better myself. But it makes for an easy way of downloading stuff. You just open in GitHub Desktop, clone it down, and you just click on a button, reclone it, things like that. So that's it. Put it on YouTube for 10 hours. Let's drive that the engagement. It's like the Hypnotoad channel on Futurama. Just play static and nothing but Dear ImGui flashbanging people. Yeah, let me turn that off. Let me just have a nice, pleasant background. There we go. Much better. So you have to have all your code bundled in a makefile that actually makes the project work. Yep. I should be able to download it, hit make, boom. And if it's a Dear ImGui thing, load it in Visual Studio, hit compile, build, run, should run. Yeah, everything needs to be integrated together. Everything has to be working together. That's one of the core things. Because last time, everybody did their pieces all separately. Like the Bridges person did a Bridges visualization. It had nothing to do with the game. So you'd have a combat. The initiative tracker was not connected to the game. It wasn't visualizing the initiative of the game. They just made a fake combat and did a fake circular doubly linked list, which, it's like, all right, it's better than nothing. But for this one, I definitely want everything integrated together and working together. So that's Dear ImGui. I've posted the source code for this onto Discord, and then, like I said, I posted a link to their FAQ entry for let's see, the people online. They're not necessarily in Canvas. I'll show the link for that as well. Let's see, week 17. Yeah. Come on, Canvas, come together. So they have a FAQ entry for how to display images in Dear ImGui for different types of users. So whichever backend you're using, click on the link, and then you can have a picture displayed in your thing. And that, my friends, is that. I want you guys spending the rest of class actually working on your projects, not, being like, oh, okay, I'm just going to disconnect. Actually working on it. Yep. And again, the Jujutsu Kaisen curse word does not have to use Dear ImGui. You can use in curses. It's fine. But it's pretty cool. It's probably worth learning. All right, that's it for today. Thanks, everyone.